Welcome back to CIA Declassified. In the Cold War arms race, the most valuable territory wasn't a piece of land, it was the human psyche. The agency feared that the Soviets had mastered brainwashing, and they needed to know how to resist it. To find the answer, they turned toward the absolute void. This was Project KNOTTY, a series of radical experiments in the 1960s designed to strip away the five senses and see what remains of a person when the world disappears. It wasn't just about torture. It was about the fundamental limits of consciousness. Volunteers, often junior officers or graduate students, were placed in soundproof rooms or submerged in Epsom saltwater tanks for days on end. Project KNOTTY researchers found that after only a few hours of total sensory deprivation, the brain begins to hallucinate to compensate for the lack of external stimuli. A quote from a 1965 Project KNOTTY progress report. The subject reported seeing complex geometric patterns followed by vivid panoramic scenes of a childhood home, despite being in total darkness for 36 hours. End quote. The CIA monitored brainwaves using early EEG machines to track the exact moment a subject's sense of self began to dissolve. Many subjects in Project KNOTTY developed temporary aphasia, the inability to speak or understand language, after emerging from the tanks. The agency experimented with subliminal audio messages played at the edge of hearing to see if a deprived mind was more suggestible to new identities. A quote from Dr. John Lilly, pioneer of isolation tanks. In the absence of all external stimulation, the mind becomes its own universe, and that universe is not always friendly. End quote. The declassification confirms that some Project KNOTTY tests took place at black sites in Western Europe to avoid domestic oversight. Researchers utilized electrodermal sensors to measure the physical stress response of subjects even while they appeared to be sleeping in the void. The program attempted to train agents to use sensory deprivation as a reset button to purge traumatic memories after a failed mission. A quote from an internal CIA memo on resistance to interrogation. The goal is to create a hardened mind that can find sanctuary within itself when the external environment is hostile. End quote. By 1967, the project expanded to include sleep deprivation cycles to see if the two types of deprivation had a synergistic effect on mental collapse. The declassified files reveal that the agency developed a liquid feed system to keep subjects inside the tanks for over a week without interruption. A significant number of volunteers requested immediate termination of the experiment within the first 12 hours due to extreme panic attacks. Project KNOTTY provided the raw data for what would later become the KUBARK Counterintelligence Interrogation Manual, which we have an entire episode on. The declassification contains recovery protocols for agents who suffered permanent dissociative disorders as a result of the testing. Remember, at least in this instance, they did volunteer. The agency utilized white noise at specific frequencies to see if it could induce audio hallucinations faster than total silence. A 1964 study within KNOTTY suggested that time distortion was the most common symptom, with subjects believing days had passed when it had only been hours. The project was officially shuttered in the early 70s, though the declassified documents suggest it was merely renamed and moved to a different department. The CIA tested the use of specific strobe light frequencies on subjects in the tanks to see if they could trigger a trance state suitable for deep cover programming. A quote from a declassified 1962 operational memo: "The KNOTTY protocol serves as a psychological vacuum, cleaning the subject's internal slate before the introduction of new operational parameters," end quote. Project KNOTTY explored the use of anisoconiconic lenses. I think I might be pronouncing that wrong. ANISEIKONIC lenses, which distort the size and shape of objects to further disorient agents before they entered the soundproof rooms. Declassified logs show that some agents were administered small doses of vitamin B12 intravenously to see if it could stave off the physical fatigue caused by the mental strain of isolation. A quote from Dr. Donald Hebb, a psychologist: "The integrity of the personality is dependent upon its continuous relationship with its environment. Remove that, and the man begins to unravel," end quote. If the goal was just to study stress, why are the final 20 pages of the 1968 summary entirely blacked out? Folder KNOTTY Omega is a graveyard of ink. What did they find in the silence? Get ready for the theory of the void walkers. Speculation suggests that Project KNOTTY wasn't about endurance at all, but about finding a way to project the mind into the empty spaces between realities. The theory claims the CIA discovered that when the five senses are dead, a sixth sense wakes up. The redactions hide the travel logs of agents who supposedly viewed distant Soviet bases while their bodies were floating in a tank in Maryland. What if the silence talked back? A dark rumor suggests the agency found something living in the sensory void. The hitchhiker theory posits that some subjects came out of the tanks with shared personalities. The redactions hide the negotiation terms with these shadows in the list of agents who are currently occupied by entities found in the dark. Could they be rewiring or rewriting souls? Some speculate the redacted files reveal Operation Ghostwrite, a method of downloading the memories of deceased spies into the emptied minds of KNOTTY subjects. The black bars hide the source names. Brace for the Eldritch frequency rumor. It claims the agency discovered a specific sound of the universe that can only be heard in total isolation, and the redactions are the sheet music for a weapon that can drive a city mad. Is the tank a gateway? Some believe the redactions hide Project Bifrost, where the agency successfully sent a subject's consciousness across, and the black ink covers the description of the other side. Whispers from the water cooler suggest the echo box theory. This gossip claims the redactions hide evidence that subjects were hearing the future, and the black ink covers the exact dates of every global disaster through 2026 that the CIA planned to ignore. Could our own brains be the traitors? Fringe speculation suggests the redactions hide Operation Neural Flip, a discovery that sensory deprivation allows the agency to turn off the human soul, leaving a high-functioning biological robot that the black bars describe as the perfect asset. Watch out for the ghost liquid rumor. It claims the redactions hide a secret chemical formula used in the tank water that causes a person's skin to become trans-dimensional. And the black ink mask the photos of agents who partially vanished while submerged. Dark lore suggests the mental parasite rumor. It claims the redacted pages describe how KNOTTY subjects were actually being used as human hard drives to store sentient AI data before computers were advanced enough to hold it. And the black bars hide the names of the living programs. Lastly, Is the void actually a weapon? Some speculate the redactions hide Project Null Zone, a plan to use massive sensory deprivation transmitters to wipe the minds of entire enemy populations, and the black bars are the radius maps. Was Project KNOTTY a success? Tactically, it was a dark triumph. The CIA successfully mapped the human breaking point and learned exactly how to trigger it using environment rather than physical force. Strategically, it was a double-edged sword. While it created more resilient agents, the declassification shows that the mental fragility caused by the experiments led to a high rate of early retirement and psychological instability within the clandestine service for years. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, stripping away the world taught the agency how to build new ones. Psychological shielding, the development of mental anchors, internal psychological techniques for agents to maintain sanity and isolation. Modern isolation tanks, the direct ancestor of the float spas used today for relaxation, though with much more sterile origins. Non-visual surveillance, innovations in biometric monitoring that could track a person's state of mind without seeing their face, and environmental control warfare, learning how to use architecture and lighting to subconsciously influence the mood and cooperation of a target. Project KNOTTY reminds us that the loudest things in our lives are often the ones we can't see. When the world is quiet, our own minds become a roar. The agency looked into that void and tried to bottle it, but as the declassified files show, some things in the dark are better left unmeasured. Thanks for joining us, and join us next time as we examine Project Whiplash. The agency wanted a weapon that left no trace. We'll uncover the research into toxins that mimic natural heart attacks. We'll look at the electric darts, the frozen pellets, and the mysterious deaths of political rivals that looked like bad luck, but were actually bad chemistry. Join us next time for the instant end. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.